Hey, I'm Mark with CommonCare, and I'd like to welcome you on board as a new channel partner. And in this first training video, we're going to be going over the answer to the question, what is CommonCare? In the simplest terms, CommonCare is a platform for restructuring how groups pay for group health plans. That's what we do. Now, why is that needed? Well, you probably don't need me to tell you just how inefficient the US healthcare system is. We spend considerably more on healthcare than other developed countries, and yet have considerably worse health outcomes. And ever since the implementation of the ACA about a decade ago, employers have been forced at almost metaphorical gunpoint to participate in this healthcare circus. But the problem is, employers aren't healthcare experts, and the so-called healthcare experts that they turn to are really just commissioned salespeople with an obvious conflict of interest. So you can begin to see how there's a huge opportunity here to help employers better design and structure their group health plans. So how do we think that we can help with that? By approaching all of this with a healthy dose of skepticism and asking questions, lots of questions, and not being satisfied with surface level answers. The current healthcare landscape has created an environment where we have people selling products and consuming products, and no one really taking the time to step back and consider the more basic aspects of healthcare and group health plans. Here are a few basic questions that, if asked and understood, would change the way that most employers in this country choose to structure their group health plans. First up, what even is a group health plan? Surprisingly, almost no one can answer this question. And our first correction is that it's not health insurance, which is a common misconception. Instead, it's a legal agreement for how healthcare can be administered at the employer or other group level. It's administered at that level because A, that's where the tax advantage is, and B, because large groups with 50 or more full-time employees are mandated to do so. So employers enter into some sort of an agreement with their employees, set up the legal docs, advertise the costs and benefits, set up the payroll deductions, and there you go, you have a group health plan. And that plan can be as simple as employees just using payroll deductions to pay for medical expenses. Sounds pretty easy, right? Well, the ACA mandates some aspects of this arrangement. Things like no annual or lifetime limits on essential health benefits, and no cost sharing on preventative care, which makes most employers feel backed into a corner because who wants to take on those kinds of risks? So maybe insurance does have a place in there somewhere after all. But before we answer that, we first need to define health insurance in the current landscape. Also, it helps to keep in mind that insurance companies are making record profits in this environment, and that they administratively make things more difficult for employers, participants, and especially providers, and that there is alarmingly little variation among the major medical plans that exist out there. It's a copycat industry. One plan looks just like another. There's very little innovation or creativity. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. The second question that we still have to ask is, if group health plans are not the same thing as group health insurance, then what is group health insurance? Well, obviously it's insurance, but maybe not so obviously if you think about it compared to insurance in other industries. The ACA makes it illegal for any insurance company to charge different premiums based on behavior, except for smoking. The problem is, most of our health outcomes are tied to our behavior. Health insurance is like auto insurance. If auto insurance covered gas, and you made a claim because your car ran out of gas, and then you had to share the cost of gas with everyone else in the whole country, no matter how much they drove, even if you drive a Prius and rarely leave home. Meanwhile, the gas stations are billing the insurance company $17 a gallon, which normally gets negotiated down to about $6 a gallon, but no one knows for sure what will happen, even the doctors. Of course, if you walk in and just pay cash, it's only $3 a gallon. But who does that when you're already paying for an insurance premium? That scenario is not as far-fetched as it may seem. That is exactly how health insurance operates. And it's enough to make anyone, really, hate health insurance, which pretty much everyone does. But we know there's no sense railing against this issue because we can't just unilaterally change the rules. So why are we talking about it? Especially since the way things stand right now, health insurance actually is a meaningful option for quite a few people, and a meaningful option for almost every group to include in their group health plan. So why does it seem like we keep wanting to pick on insurance? It's because of how it's implemented in reality. Truth is, group health plans are not subject to the same laws as health insurance companies. They have a lot more flexibility. Unfortunately, most group sponsors fail to recognize that, and they just saddle their group health plan with one or maybe two insurance policies. This sucks all of the efficient ability out of the group health plans and just tosses them into the same scenario as the auto insurance example we just walked through. Compounding that is that each group plan represents its own risk pool per ACA definitions, meaning that insurers can and do charge different premiums based on group behavior, meaning claims data. That means that if you're in a small group health plan with a guy who decides to start a YouTube channel showing off his death-defying motorcycle stunts at high speeds, your insurance rates are tied to his. Likewise, if you're 23 and single, your insurance premiums are tied to someone who's 45 with 7 kids and someone who's 65 with heart disease. In reality, the options these people should be choosing from are very different. Stuffing all of them into a one-size-fits-all plan, like an insurance company, is a very inefficient choice. It makes no sense at all, yet it's the de facto way to take care of your employees. So how did this happen? Well, it's the result of unnecessary complexity. And no offense to our broker friends, because you are our friends and this could potentially be really offensive to you, but we're having to navigate these incredibly complex laws that even capable experts are having a difficult time grasping. And then you have insurance companies who drum up a batch of generic fix-all insurance products, and then they pay brokers commissions to go out and sell it. Like I said, don't be offended. Brokers didn't write the complex legislation, and it's really hard to have the motivation to push for positive change in a bad faith system. But a little bit of inquisitive skepticism goes a long way. And that leads to question 3, which is, if health insurance is a less than ideal solution for most people, why has it become the default option for almost everyone? Well, your first clue that maybe it's not such a great deal is the fact that it was mandated under threat of penalty by the federal government when the ACA was passed. Now, the individual mandate is not currently being enforced, but it is still the law. If that's not the definition of complexity in a bad faith system, I don't know what is. Regardless, we think it's evident that insurance, the way it's being offered right now, is not the best option for most people. Now, of course, people are going to continue purchasing health insurance for the time being, if for no other reason than the fact that we've all been conditioned to believe that if we're uninsured, we'll go bankrupt due to $1 million medical bills. Now, we don't have time to get into a skeptic's thoughts on that idea, but we'll circle back around to it in other content down the road. That being said, we are hoping to push towards more effective solutions over time. And to clarify, CommonCare isn't trying to solve the problem of whether individuals should decide to get insurance or not. Instead, we're focusing on the group level and encouraging groups to design and structure their group health plans in a way that allow their employees to consume care in the most efficient ways possible, whether through insurance or alternate options. Our skepticism tells us that if we push towards this and publish the results ongoing, the empirical truth will emerge from the data. Our promise is to remain relentless in being skeptical and weeding out any conflicts of interest or solutions that are less than stellar. Already, there are meaningful solutions in this space showing that things can be done better. 4 of them include health share arrangements, which are the original disruptor of the ACA landscape and have been providing coverage for half the price of traditional insurance for over a decade now. Primary care networks, which are allowing groups to pay for primary medical services directly through a subscription model, which can be up to 100% more efficient than the traditional insurance setup. Medical stop-loss coverage, which is as uninteresting as you'd expect any insurance product to be, but at least it behaves like a traditional insurance product and allows groups to self-fund while limiting their risk exposure. And finally, speaking of self-funding, creative groups have been doing that for years with a great degree of success. The only caveat that we'd add here is that a lot of the self-funded plans we've seen have been structured to mirror traditional insurance policies, which means the results tend to mirror the traditional results. Providing a wider range of options here is key for helping self-funded plans become more efficient. At CommonCare, our mission is not to sell any one of these options, or even insurance for that matter. We're a platform to allow groups to better design and implement their group health plans. And we have no financial interest in whether you choose one of these options or just a traditional insurance policy. Instead, our interest is to track the results of the various plans on our platform to show what works and to be able to construct more meaningful cooperative solutions in the future using empirical data to guide our priorities. So how do you tackle something as complex as the current healthcare landscape? You try thousands of experiments, track the results, and work cooperatively towards building better solutions in the future. So if we give inexpensive tools for groups to take a swing at better structuring their group health plan, some of them are going to hit the ball out of the park. And that will become evidence for everyone else of what a top performing group health plan looks like. In the meantime, our partners, that's you, can get paid a generous portion of the inexpensive fees that we charge and make additional revenue by helping groups implement insurance and other products that they're going to want to mitigate their risks. And you'll be building a network of good faith customers who you can later onboard onto some of the more direct and meaningful solutions that CommonCare will be implementing down the road. Our skepticism has taught us that everyone, individuals, groups, even providers, feel that insurance is a dead-end road, and it's something they participate in only after throwing their hands up and believing that there's no other options. If you join with us, we can create something that is the exact opposite. We'll solve problems in the most practical way today, but we'll do it in a high-tech way that enables us to grow communities and build out richer solutions for the future. So what is CommonCare? CommonCare is a platform for restructuring how groups pay for group health plans. That's what we do. Now let's go ahead and get into the details of what this looks like, the products we offer, and how it will benefit the businesses that you know.